Hi everyone, Mature Simmer here. First day, or next day of summer. I'm in July, but my canola is still growing. I ran up here nearby to Swede's field. His is ready to go, so I'm hoping tomorrow, which would be the next day of harvest for canola, that I will finally be ready and I can get going. But as of today, still not ready to harvest. See you in a bit. The field is ready to harvest, so we need to get what we need for harvest. I've been looking at the various harvesters within the game, and for the cost standpoint, this is the largest capacity, one of the highest horsepowers. I think we can get like 10 extra horsepower on something else, which ultimately probably doesn't matter. I've never used a Kloss, so this is going to be new to me, but I think this is the configuration we're going to go with, and it's like $100,000 to $200,000 less than any other choice I could make. So the next choice I have is the header. Unlike FS19, I don't know that there's a restriction of the header you use, because you can see there's no real connection. But yeah, this is nicer that I don't have to unfold it. So while it won't match my harvester, I think this is what I'm going to go ahead and try so that I don't have to worry about a header trailer. Alright, so I did look at the combinations. It does just show the case, so I'm going to do this as an experiment and see if then it's going to give me some difficulty and not let me connect. So I'll try that right at the shop, obviously. Finally, the last thing I need is a trailer to collect our crops. So this is almost 60,000. These carry more, but it would seem, obviously, this will require less trips, and in large fields, it would seem that's the way we want to go. Now, this one, I'm able to bring lime and other things where I can't. Decisions. This actually makes more sense because this also will pick up root crops. These do not. And this will honestly be simpler to maneuver. So I think we're going to go ahead with this. Do our black rims. Alright, $690,500 is our total that we've spent, which would have been about what we would have spent just for the harvester. I was checking too, as I went to pop over here, I was thinking, well, Sears had told me last Friday that he had gotten busy and so was unable to do things. I'm actually sorry, I'm thinking of something. I'm gonna grab my truck first because I don't want to drag that header all the way back and then suddenly find out that I can't actually utilize it. So, whoops, I thought I had disconnected here, obviously not. So I wasn't originally going to just wait and then drive the truck back when I needed it in the harvest, and I may still do that, but at least I'll move it. But you can see our field is ready. It looks like Swede's also still ready, or maybe once it's harvested it still looks that way. Let's see. No, he's still got canola sitting there in the field. So I am surprised. He does have his harvester up here, it looks like. So it looks like he's gone with the whole John Deere setup. And again, I've looked at that. He does like, no, I thought that was the IT runners, but we don't have those. So, and I'm thinking he doesn't have any supply silos, so I'm thinking he feels he's close enough that he can run back, because he bought the trailer that I was debating for size. And you know, there's always a possibility if I decide this is too small, I could always add another one of the of those kind for crops and have two trailers and just utilize the right one. But So it looks like he just started to harvest at some point, whether it was earlier today, because again, he's in Europe, so it's already mid-afternoon there, so his morning would have come and gone while I was still sleeping. But yeah, just not sure what options we're going to have, and if we're going to enjoy this trailer for the harvest, or because basically this is going to give me a little over 3 attempts on, or 3 loads on the harvester, where the other trailer would have been a little over 4. You know, so it's like 25% more trips, so it's not insubstantial. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this up a bit, and it's not moving very quickly. I'm going to fix that because I thought I could at least move, but it doesn't look like it because I don't have any hoses connected. It doesn't move appropriately, but it just wasn't moving at all. Like I was standing on the gas while it was doing what it was doing. But yeah, so what I was saying with Sears is he had said, he apologized because last Friday he had told me he was going to remove that trailer here, and then he got busy, and I think early this week let me know that he was going to make another attempt. Oops, this is not what I want to do yet. I'm forgetting the whole point of why I did what I just did, which was to see now if I can connect to this and utilize it. Because obviously if I can't, I just need to sell it back, even though I may be losing some money. But alright, so it looks like it's going to let me. I can fold it up, so I'm going to have to manually attach here. Alright. So, alright, there used to be an FS19, there was also a set of hoses you needed to attach, but it doesn't look like that's the case here. Alright, so I'm testing to see, whoops, if I can run the harvester. I just hit X without changing my tool, and instead of unfolding, I was redoing the harvester. So this is the unfolded version there. Now if I turn this on, alright, so I can do it. So while it looks funny, you know, I can go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go ahead, disconnect this, and then, oops. Why is this not letting me disconnect the PTO? Oh, because it's running, I think. If it was giving me a warning, I was completely blind, because I was just focused on the shaft not moving. Oh boy, this is starting out like a beautiful morning. There we go. Alright. So now I can do this. Fold myself back up just so I have a nicer drive. So I will say the Kloss looks a lot sleeker folded because it has that hard top. Oh boy, I didn't unfold the header. Usually I never have that problem. I think this is the first time I've honestly had that issue where I'm backing up to the header and been like, I can't tow it. Alright. So now let me do that, and then there we go, I'll drop it down. I was just trying to move quickly, detach it while it was still unfolding. But now I've come to love these Draper headers simply because you don't have to sit there and play with the header trailer and figure out how to get things on it. Now again, if I do a corn header or something, obviously I'm going to have the situation where I'm going to need a header trailer. Alright, wasn't sure where the hitch on this was, so it's under there. So at that point, I can go with the Kloss or something else, but it looks like they are interchangeable. That FS22 doesn't enforce, well, it has to go with the manufacturer, which may be more true in real life. I don't know. And I'm sure, unlike a video game, where, oh gee, my header didn't work, I'll just sell it back, I'll buy it, and it's just a couple presses of the button. I'm pretty sure farmers who are spending real money are less likely to want to experiment. But, I don't know. I don't know if there is interchangeability in the real farming world. So that if you were like, hey, I found a used case header at the farmer down the street and I can get it for 50% off of a new header for the brand of my harvester, and they're roughly the same width if you would do that. So yeah, the real difference here is I'm about 1.5 meters smaller than the other header, which to me is not enough to really be relevant on... it is, basically 10% smaller than the large header, which therefore makes it obviously a little larger percentage of that smaller on this end than this header. Or not smaller than this header, but it's larger than this, more than 10% larger than this header. But it's, about 10%, not even 10% smaller than the large header is this one. So... however you want to slice the analysis, I think basically over 15 passes or 14 passes, something like that, I would have gone across the field one less time. And I think the fields might be 60, so, I might be talking 3 or 4 less passes with the other header on this entire field. But for not having to get things on a trailer, this is just way simpler. So I think I'm going to go and start here because I don't need to run down the field for a header pass on the side. So I can connect myself up here. Again, let me unfold my harvester so that it's ready to go. And I will begin harvesting the headlands. And then we'll get the truck when we need to unload, which will maybe be pretty quickly. Again, if you recall, I was targeting canola. One of the reasons too was I felt the higher price per thousand likely meant that we were dealing with something that doesn't harvest as much as wheat does. So I just don't want to hit that tree, so I'm gonna come in here. So the Kloss does kind of a wavy disbursement pattern of the waste out the back. So did not know that. Again, never have used one of these, even as a contractor. It's just not a brand that people have bought, and some of that I think is, I don't know that they're available in North America. I think they're mainly a European brand, and so someone who's kind of trying to go down the route of buying stuff that's available. And once again, Canada may have them, because obviously Canada has some stronger ties to Europe than the US does directly with its relationship with countries in Europe. I believe it's technically still a British Commonwealth, so it's technically part of the British Empire, but I don't know if that's accurate or not. Again, I'm not well versed in British politics and stuff like that, so I know at a time they definitely were. Of course, at a time I think they were part of France too, but just I think how we get Quebec. But so a lot of history of the country I'm now in that I know very little about, obviously. So I'll worry about my GPS when I get, I mean, I guess I can set it and set it up, but I'm not going to try to set a line here to this end just because this is the middle of the field. But yeah, at this point we're, 23%. Certainly I wouldn't say the numbers are flying up. I mean, it also does help that it is an 18,000 liter harvester. But in any event, we're doing pretty well. I mean, I don't think I'm going to get all the way around the field. I would be pleasantly surprised if I could get back to the center. And I may be able to, because once again, I don't know that I need to be running near the river, a headland. So I will have to cut across, but other than that, I'm not necessarily doing that. But here, any harvester usually has a pretty sharp turning radius, so I think one pass will be enough. If nothing else, I can certainly do a 3-point turn pretty easily. But here, we're not getting very near the river, so I think I'm okay without a headland pass. Kind of once I get past the forest, and I'll finish this up because it's really not that much more, but we'll do that. So yeah, I have noticed like the corners of the fields, like they all have that little cut, I guess I would call it, that I'm sure is just part of how the field was designed. It was probably easier than trying to line everything up, but as I was playing with some other fields, so I had gone ahead, I don't honestly remember if I had recorded anything. I had taken the plow down to 32 and then also did a pass around field 1. So I went around one time, and yeah, I'm kind of recalling, I'm certain I didn't record this. So one time around field 1, doing one headland pass with the plow took me 20 minutes. And if I basically did the math at 11 miles an hour, that basically means that one headland pass, excuse me, getting a tickle in my throat that I'm clearing out, so just muting during that unpleasantness. But anyway, at 11 miles an hour doing that math, that means that one headland pass is 3.6 miles roughly around. So it gives you a sense of size of field 1. It's just massive. But, because the other part I'm thinking is, if I have time and if I don't have anything in particular, I'm going to do pieces of one and just get a little bit done on days when I can plow a bit, but I don't have to plow a specific field, because I think that's the only way that I'm reasonably going to get it done, so that when it does come up on auction at some point, it's not a panic to try to finish it to stay on task. I also have very little expectation that anyone's going to buy field 1. It's similar to, on the Wild West map in FS19, there's a field in the bottom corner of the map, the bottom right corner, which I guess would make it the southeast, that was the largest field. That was like, I think, over 1,000 acres. It might have even been like 1,200 acres, and nobody in FSN ever owned it that I ever saw, simply because, once again, where you can't automate, where things run in real time, it was way too big to deal with. And I think one is the same way for us, at least with the folks we have. Maybe someone will surprise me and pick it up, but we shall see. So I am actually going to make it here to the edge of the field. Look at that. Alright, so I'm going to turn this on, and then at this point we'll just start cutting across, because this will be the cleanest too, to just stay at this edge, and then I can come into my entrance at the silo, dump things off, cycle back out through the other entrance, so we'll get to see how our whole farm setup actually aligns here. So it'll be good. So I am going to go ahead and switch my GPS to dots, so you don't need to see all that. So I'll cut that little bit of work out here, and I'll realign my path while I'm at it. Alright, so the other thing I did is I went ahead and synced up the time of the server with it being closer to real time. So this is pretty much almost exactly that time. It just worked out that while I was in the process of everything I was doing, that 7 o'clock was coming up. So we just synced ourselves up. So this is basically real time. Might be off by a minute or so, but that's about it. So I'll go ahead and get this pipe out. See where this extends. So it has a very long pipe compared to other brands of harvesters where normally the truck would be substantially closer to the header, so that is good. Going to have some nice clearance here. But yeah, as we run these north-south here, which will only become a bit of an issue once we hit the island, but that's alright. We'll, maybe do this side and then maybe switch to running some east-west. I need to be careful that I don't run over. So it's going to be 18,000. So the nice thing is it's at least easy to remember what our full capacity is. I don't know that it's really worth going to every last bit here, because then, it does that, it stops, and so forth. But I'll now jump over to my truck, which is connected with the hoses, so it's ready to go. And we'll bring it over to the field, and we'll start using it for our crops. But yeah, I've used these in some single-player series and so forth. Right now, I would say this is kind of the go-to trailer for me in FS22. From an automation standpoint, it's not multi-hopper, which things like auto drive seem to still have some difficulty with. It's pretty versatile, and it empties out actually quite quickly because the back door, the entire door will open. Now, I don't know that it actually matters if I use the grain door or whatever. There are mods that I've seen that I've actually talked about in my Mods Worth Noting on the channel that will change the unload time based on the actual version of unloading you're using. So that if you were to use the grain door, it would go significantly slower than if you weren't. Now, again, the question, I guess, would be, did they really do it in a mathematical way that it's, however, much slower than it should be? I don't know. So, yeah, I can't imagine he filled that entire truck doing that, but maybe he's done the same thing where he did one pass, got full, and then went ahead and decided he needed the truck and just stopped, got the truck, and then ran out of time. So this should empty soon. There we go. So Canola, if you've not seen it in the game, is kind of these little black seeds. So there you go. FS22 does a pretty good job of giving you some interesting textures. I don't know if that's really what canola looks like. I assume it is. There's no reason to think it's not. But we'll go ahead. We're almost unloaded. I would say that's a pretty quick unload time, too, all things considered, because I do believe that's faster than the unload time in FS19, and I don't know if that's because of the cloths or because of FS22, but it's certainly was not something I was waiting for a lot, because I switched, and I guess we were looking at the trailer. I don't know, maybe it was the same. It seemed to me like it was quicker, because I know I'm definitely waiting in FS19 for the unload to happen and kind of chomping at the bit to get moving again for what seems like a minute or so, but it's probably an exaggeration, because I know how that works, where you're waiting for something. You do feel like it's a lot longer than it actually is when you're timing it, which is why in my career of working with technology, many times when users would tell me, booting up my machine and it's taking 10 minutes or whatever it is, they give me some time frame, I'd encourage them to actually, use their phone these days and really time it, because it's important to know, is it really an issue or is it just that they're impatient? Because sometimes things do take a couple minutes on a computer and there's nothing wrong with it, and spending time trying to fix something that really isn't fixable without replacing hardware entirely and so forth, and even then it's a little bit of Russian roulette as to how much of a benefit you're going to get. There's a lot of stuff going on. Here we may have an interesting issue from a headland standpoint, but we'll see what we can do, because obviously with that pipe we're going to start hitting trees, but I think we're good. I had a little bit of a panic. I thought I was at 99%, but I'm like, that's not possible, and it isn't. But so now we'll see. We basically started at, just to make it easy, we'll say we started at 10% when we ran back down the field. We are now running a full pass, so that little swath was already 9% from the truck to here. So I'm going to imagine we're going to be substantially more than 9% more, meaning 18, 19%, well before we get to that truck. And as I speak, we're already there. So we've proven that hypothesis is accurate. But what I'm trying to understand is, what is the actual harvest pace going to look like here? And we'll get a nice close look at everything that's happening on our harvester here. I know the machine noise is louder because we're closer, so hopefully this is not unbearable in the recording. But obviously we've got the spray out the back. We've also got what look like wisps out the side a little bit as well. I assume it's doing the same thing on the other side. It is. So, but again, with FS22 versus FS19, the textures are very different. And that was really one of the things that they pressed pretty hard as they were announcing it and showing us things. And I think they had FarmCon, I want to say it was back in July, and they were, obviously demoing some early things of FS22, because that was about, I think, when they had announced the release date. And this was one of the kind of specific topics they talked about, was all the changes in field texture and crops and just what things looked like and how much more realistic it was. So I would certainly agree. It does provide that. And while it doesn't hurt, it's not one of those that, once again, I feel I couldn't have lived without. So I've said many times, FS19 is an excellent game, and with everything that was there, would have been happy sticking with that for a long, long time. So, but we have the reality of what we have. We're on FS22. We have many, many fewer mods than we did there. So there are things I'm having to use, like machinery that I've never used before, like class harvesters, and I also assume I can't angle my pipe. I will try that, I guess, as I go up the field next time. Alright, so 59, maybe 60% by the time, there we go. So it looks like roughly 50% with a full run down the field here. So 2 passes and we'll be full, which works out pretty well, because if that's true, then I will still be facing this way when I am ready to empty. Alright, so let me unfold the pipe, because that's the first step. And then I'm just going to pull up the help menu. But yeah, I think all that's doing is moving the harvester header. Yep, it just moves the harvester header up and down. Now let me change here. Yeah, it's still the harvester header. So no pipe in or out. Just kind of trying to test the keys. Hopefully I won't create myself a problem. I'm not. Yeah. So the pipe does not angle like I was able to do on my case harvester in FS19, which I absolutely loved. Because then if I was going the other way up the field and I was full, I could just pull up a truck behind me and empty. So, I hope someone else does that and comes up with a way to do it. I'm just looking at my other options by key. Nothing that indicates that I can do what I'm hoping. So, yeah, I believe we don't have that option. It would be awesome if we were able to get a harvester that did do that. Because especially on fields like this, where I have these kind of runs, I'd really, really enjoy that. Because otherwise I'm going to be backing up, I'm going to be filling a trailer at the end of a row just to do it. Once again, I'm going to have to figure out my process here in how I'm going to run things. I mean, I can certainly run to the end of the field here, and then in theory, wherever I stop now at 100% up here, it will be almost the same point where I'll be full. But we'll see how that all plays out as we continue to harvest this not massive field at this point. Obviously, if I was doing the entire field, it's massive, but you know, 53.5 acres, as I shared when I gave you my survey results, is roughly what we have up here. So yes, at this point I'm just going to stop there. I'm not going to try to fill. I didn't used to do that before. And I will then come and empty this thing, because you know, the goal is to try to keep moving, and if I have to reverse and do other things, that just adds seconds, minutes to my entire process, which is still going to be kind of lengthy. Because once again, the work time is what it is. On the fields in Ohio, our largest field was about 30 acres. So I'm going to try to switch back here. So, yeah, I'm not sure. It does seem like this is faster. I may be wrong, but... So the black inside edges along with the black crop makes it a little deceiving about how full the trailer really is. But again, we know we have nearly 60,000. These don't even do 20,000, so we know we can get one more full harvester and then some in there before we have to go dump out. But I do feel like this is at least a bit quicker than what we were doing in FS19, whether it's the change in manufacture or the change in game engine and how they modeled things. Not sure, but it is different. So I did get this thing with wide tires because in theory that'll give us better grip, and so we should have less slippage in a game where, once again, when we talk about what we've lost or what we don't have that we did have in FS19, we currently don't have enhanced vehicle in FSN here. That is a mod that is available in FS22 now, but it just has not been accepted as something that is being used in FSN. So, you know, we're having to kind of deal with that. I'm not sure. Hold on. Do I have to change to pick that up? Because, yeah, I did destroy some of my crop. That's what I was worried about. Because at least if I kind of dance around here and watch my wheels carefully, you know, I should have the ability to turn around even in this tight space, but I did do some damage. So we've got what we've got. Let's see if this... Alright, we didn't lose any. I was worried I'd have to back up a bit because I was worried the swing to line up on the GPS line was going to leave a little bit on the field, and on my own field where I'm harvesting, I am going to be thorough, where sometimes, as you know, when we play as contractors, or you know, there's probably even a few sprigs here and there when I'm plowing the fields, doing the FSN community work to get them ready for auction. I may miss a piece here or there and not necessarily go back and touch it up, but I will make sure I get every last stalk, or whatever they're called, of canola. You know, in corns there's stalks, but I don't know if they're shoots or sprigs or plants or what in canola, or wheat or barley. Not sure what the proper term is. But, you know, as we can see, we're coming up on 20 minutes since we've started this field. You can see how far we've gotten. So this is one of the reasons I'm doing the field in roughly halves. And once again, kind of mathematically, now that we know this is basically a 53-acre, 54-acre portion, knowing that we have, I think, 122 acres according to the additional field info we get when we're standing in the field. We then know we lose a little bit in the center, but even if I lose 10 acres in the center, that would still roughly put me at 60 acres in the bottom half at least. And so, you know, the southern section is a bit larger. So that is why we're dividing it. But at this point, kind of going back to what I was speaking of, the largest field we had in FS, or in the Ohio farm at Seneca, was 30 acres. So we're basically doing similar to the home plot I had, 29 and 30 in Ohio. It's basically like doing both of those. And so normally that would take a couple hours, well, it would take like 4 hours to harvest, because it would be a couple hours per field. So 30 acres or so, that's how long it takes with this type of equipment. And, you know, that obviously doesn't account time it takes to turn around and so forth. So, you know, I may be a little more efficient here from the standpoint of longer runs, because these are, you know, bigger fields. This is just one giant field, and, you know, that's going to change a little bit when I start getting to that island there where I'll be turning around, but it's still, you know, a good long ways anyway. You know, so there's less time doing this, where basically, you know, I'm not obviously harvesting at this moment. And then again, the benefit of the larger harvester is I stop to empty less, and that also means I'm doing this, rolling down the field and cutting grain a higher percentage of the time than if I have, say, a 10,000 liter harvester where I would have had to already stop and empty it, since we just last emptied it, where here I can keep going for another minute or more, and that just all adds up to increased efficiency, which is why it's really best to maximize the size once we're at this scope, because that's just kind of the reality of where we're at. So I do have to remember, I do need to keep track of what I'm harvesting, but of course it'll be simple enough because the canola I have in my silo is what my harvest was. I'm not adding on to anything I already have, so forth, so I truly don't need to track, but it'll be good to get myself mentally in the state of doing that, because as I go forward in future years here at Misty Hills, that could become important, because without precision farming we don't have a screen that tracks that for us. So you know, once we get precision farming back, which hopefully we will, and it's been announced coming out in a little over a month, but once again that doesn't mean it will be available in FSN at that time. They'll have to go through the process. It's just a question of whether they're going to require voting, or whether that will be one that simply is added in because it was a major addition that was added into the FS19 servers. Alright, so we'll see. Obviously the truck is there, that's where we emptied. It's going to be very close, as you can see, but we may stop a little earlier, which is fine, because then, yeah, so there we go. So it's not quite 2 rows, but that also means we're not going to run the risk, like if we were going further, we could have rotated to the point where we are then facing the other way and back in that situation of having to back up so that I can get under the pipe without running through crop. Alright, so this will fill, and next one will stay in the truck, because then we're going to be taking the truck to the silo for the first time and christening that piece of equipment, I guess. I don't know what else I would call it. It didn't seem right. Why did it stop filling? I don't understand. Okay, the truck is clearly not full. Let us see. Oh, okay. So the other thing in FS22, and I guess probably a good reason that we didn't buy a bigger trailer, because I'm guessing we'd hit that sooner, you can see under the 45,664 liters, I have a max weight. So I have that blue bar with, you know, that giant weight, you know, giant weight, I guess. I was going to say barbell, but that's not really what it is. So I am unable to move the vehicle, I guess, with what I have. So this may be where the Mack truck, and I don't remember if this had a high horsepower or didn't, but I think I have heard a few people talk about this issue. Now, which one is the empty? Alright, so the first one. So, yeah, that's interesting, because I'm guessing I wouldn't be able to get much more than this weight of crop. Alright, it's telling me start filling. I don't know why, because that is not the fill point. Okay, sorry for the camera jerks, but we don't have anything else. Let me see. I have tip side back. Alright, I assume this is going into the silo. It's not stacking up on the ground, but yeah, it also didn't tell me, like it's not giving me the point to show that, so that is interesting. Let me just make sure. Alright, so yes, we do have 45,663 liters. Just wanted to make sure. Having a little bit of a panic moment, like, is my silo suddenly not going to work? That would be very, very unfortunate. And so yeah, so this, like what I just did there, the turnaround, I think is a key point where with the other trailer, I don't think I'd be able to do that. I think I would run into... Yeah, I'd end up jackknifing, basically. I would, you know, or start running into things. And once again, as I mentioned, I could head out and go up and then come back along the edge of the field. But where I'm at right now, that's a longer trip. And, you know, as I start getting to the other side of this field, I may start using that entrance and coming in. But in either case, I should be able to swing around like this. But yeah, so I was not aware we wouldn't be able to maximize the capacity, because that is, again, not anything that we were dealing with in FS19. There was no maximum weight, and that is an option that can be on or off, but once again, in the interest of as much realism as possible that FSN operates under, they have that turned on, so that we are under that requirement, which means now, while we can fill 100%, you know, we're going to be in a different position now. Well, that's actually incorrect. So the harvester is still going to be the harvester. I just am going to have to make more trips. But the reality is, I may have bought something with 80,000 liters capacity and not been able to get more than 45,000 in it, which would have been even more disappointing, because I mean, frankly, it's kind of disappointing that, yeah, I've got a 60,000 liter trailer and I can get it to 45. Now that does change by crop type, so potentially that's a variation that I might want to start tracking, is kind of how much everything weighs. And, you know, it's possible with wheat or something else that I can get 55,000 or even max out the capacity of my trailer and not be full and not hit the weight. It just might be that canola's heavy, you know, and I believe they're, I don't know, I guess my only belief, the reason I'm basing that belief is that sunflower seeds are the same color. Because I was going to say, I think canola is similar to sunflower seeds, but I'm frankly basing it on the fact that they're both black crop types when you fill them, so that may be entirely wrong. I honestly have no idea what canola looks like in real life harvested. So, but either way, we've learned something new, which is always part of the FSN journey and how things operate. So, and roughly 30 minutes of harvesting to fill a truck, empty it, kind of go through one full cycle is what we've hit. So I would imagine by 8 o'clock or so, we're going to be getting close to another point of moving another load, if not sooner, because once again we have about 8,000 liters that we put into, or 10,000 liters actually, that we've put into the truck already, so we may not even be able to get 2 more harvesters full. Because yeah, we can't even get 3 harvesters into that truck before we've exceeded the weight limit. And so now I am curious, if I go to trucks, no, this is 500 horsepower, the others might be 505, but so I'm assuming, you know, on the other side of it, this is the lightest vehicle, so if it's truly a gross weight across everything, I may be better off, but I'm, you know, theoretically about the same. I mean, I might have been able to get 5 extra horsepower out of a newer Mack, but I don't know if that would have even translated into a little bit more crop that I could pull because of that 5 extra horsepower, and I'm assuming if it did, it would be tens or hundreds of liters. It would not be thousands of liters. I wouldn't suddenly go from 45,000 to 60,000 capability with the weight. But it's interesting. Definitely adds something else to consider as we determine what crop types we're going to plant. And so that definitely kind of brings me back to my thought pattern on that, because my choice this time was I wanted to get something that's going to give me the highest cost per thousand, understanding that I might be choosing that for a crop that then also doesn't yield a lot. So that's also what we're going to start kind of looking at as we go through this, is what yields am I getting off of these fields. And some of it's going to be a little more challenging, because if I plant something next year, say on, oops, I've got too many things I'm doing, so I'm trying to kind of get myself ready here, and I didn't have everything. Okay, so that was what I was worried about. Alright, luckily, no, I did take some of it out, darn it. Should have lifted my header, that might have saved it, but either way, wasn't quite lined up because I got myself discombobulated and turning around, and I didn't have my GPS locked as I was backing up, so I had kind of gone over the line and then thought, well, now I'm far enough back that just going forward will work, but obviously that wasn't entirely accurate. So I think we're going to get one more pass down, and then we're going to be unable to get past the island. So I think I may then start cutting this part of the field, and then, you know, because we've kind of been going down the path where we're going to be getting further and further away from the silo anyway, because right now the silo's on this side of the yard, and we're very close to the entrance, and, you know, we're cutting further and further east into the field. And so obviously we're technically getting closer and closer to the silo, because I think it's still a little further east of us. You know, but then eventually we'll pass it and we'll be going the other way. But if I do the bottom, initially I was going to finish everything up here and then do that bottom piece next, but just the way this is playing out, I don't know. I'm second guessing myself too, because maybe I'll just cut this and stay up here. It just, the dynamics of everything is going to change anyway, because now I'm not running the full length, so I'm not going to be done in 2 passes. I'll be done in something higher than that, because these passes are going to be shorter, because I'm going to have less field before I hit where I need to turn around. And as we know from the bee episode, when we kind of measured that, we basically were at a point where we were about a little over 150 meters from the edge of the field, from where that hive is. So, it's not an insubstantial distance. It's a football field and a half or so. A little more than that, probably. Since I believe meters are a little longer than yards. I don't know. I may have everything backwards, so I may just be spouting off nonsense today. I'm not sure. But we'll get this load in, but we may not even get another full harvester in before we max out the weight on that trailer again. But in any event, I may just, I don't know, I may stick with what I was originally going to do, which was not switch to an east-west pattern until I'm done up here. So I think I'll stick with that, because all I'm going to have to do is basically come around the island and run a header on the north side rather than the south side of the island, and just do that later, because I may not even need to run a header on the south side of the island, where if I do, I guess I wouldn't have to do it the other way either. I would just start, but the thing is, then I would realign my path to start at the edge of wherever I'm at, because that'll still be the best way to, I believe, be the most efficient with harvesting that field. So definitely happy to be, pulling some crops off the field here in Saskatchewan for the first time ever. So, this kind of will officially end our cycle here. We kind of bought the farm and started here, and the first job we did was plow the fields and plow under the previous harvest so that we could get going. So once we're harvested here, we have then gone and taken this part of the field through the entire cycle. The only difference in theory we're going to have is, once we do the south end, and even that's not going to be fully accurate unless I decide to go ahead and plant the center with that. Which I may, just to go ahead and say that everything was done. I don't know. So many choices. It's the joy of running your own farm. You kind of get to be your own boss and do what you want to do. And if I want to do nothing, I can do nothing. If I want to go crazy, I can go crazy, and I can pick anything in between. But, no, what I was going to say is then, technically I haven't run the entire field through its first cycle until I do the rest of the field, which would theoretically require the middle section as well, because otherwise there'd always be that little bit, like, well, that part's not done yet, but it's not. I don't know, I guess I'm mentally wrestling with that middle part is so tiny compared to everything else. And it just feels like, again, work to benefit ratio, that I'm going to be, turning around, whatever it is, a lot more frequently just to get a little bit extra output, and everything will become more complex. Planting, all of that, trying to run around that smaller space. But I then also have to remind myself it's not that small of a space. I think it's larger than I think it is. I'm sitting here even now in the conversation I had in this episode here is, I'm thinking it's 10 acres, but it might be 20. You know, it might be the size of what would have been field 89 in Ohio, which was 20 acres. You know, and that was not an insubstantial field, but as part of this entire, 160 plus acre space that I have, but 122 acres of it being field, I'm just not entirely sure how that all lays out. And, because obviously when I went with the lime spreader and all of that, which is wider than this, I think it has an 18 meter spread, where this is a 13.7 meter, so it's substantially wider, almost 50%. It was still 4 or 5 passes when I was going east-west in that center section. So that means it's, if I'm say 5, I mean 50, 40, that's 90 meters. So that whole thing is 100 meters wide, which means it's basically almost as wide as this space here. It's a little smaller, maybe a third smaller, but so in any event, I'm unsure. And I guess today, to not drive myself and you listeners crazy, I'm maybe just going to stop speculating, because until I just make a decision, there's really nothing I can do about it. I'm not going to suddenly stop harvesting, go survey that, figure out how big it is. It's really going to be I'm just going to include it all and be done and do the whole field, which somewhat feels like I should do that. Otherwise, again, it feels like I'm throwing away part of my arable land if I just let it sit there. But I also know, just letting it sit there for cycles or two, which, yes, turn into many, several game years, the way I'm doing things, seems like a waste, but in the grand scheme of things, a physical year from now, after I've gone through, 30 years on the farm, it's going to seem like a drop in the hat for the first 5 years when I didn't use that and found my way. So I'm trying to balance again I'm playing, but I'm trying to play in a way that is sustainable in my head. So yeah, this is going to be interesting, because now as I cut this across, I'm likely going to hit 100%. You know what? Just to avoid me being really irritated and trying to get out, because I'm also not sure that even the 85% load here, well, it will, because it was 45,000, so this won't be a full trailer yet. I won't be at max weight, but no, I'm going to go ahead and empty this now, and then I'm not running that risk, because that way I can go there and back, which is what I was going to do, is basically cut 2 headland passes, and then then start going up and down. But this way I'll be able to do that without fear of being full. So I think we were at like 15,000, but that's, not going to get us. We needed almost the full 20,000, and a full harvester doesn't even have that, so I know I'll get all of it in there. And then, am I up in the air? I don't know. I guess we'll see. Nope, I'm not. Okay. So I wasn't sure if I had my header picked up or not. Obviously not. Let me get at a better angle here, because I, again, don't want to miss something because I can't see. But I'm also trying to do something that is reasonable for watching and I can get good visuals on. But, I think, again, having 2 headland passes here will avoid any harvester gymnastics that I'm going to need to turn around in that one little 13 meter pass area. So it'll get me closer to 26, 27 meters in total, and probably honestly that or less because I'm driving this manually. But either way, it's going to be around twice as much space to turn around. And like here, where that tree is very, very close to the edge of the island, that again is not going to be insubstantial. So I just need to be kind of careful here. I'm gonna pick my header up because I'm gonna start to turn. I'm gonna try to be careful with my wheels. Now if I put my header down, I'm clear of that crop. Not bad, not bad. So I think I did that as well as I could. Again, now we'll head back, but yes, we were at like 20% and we only had like 13% till full. So I would have been like maybe trying to pull the truck through the trees, or trying to back up the harvester or cut another path in to give myself some room, because like if you use course play, what it will do, if when it doesn't back up, I mean normally it'll just back up and make room, but it will cut into the next row to then allow the truck to come in and tuck in and unload there. And I think at this point, and this is where it's going to be substantially different from what I had with FS19, I think now I have enough that I will exceed the weight capacity of that truck. And given that I'm going to have to move around anyway, I'm just going to drive over to the truck at the end of this pass, unload as much as I can, and then we'll go from there. So we'll do this. Oops. The truck is thin, so I have to be careful. But yes, I'm sure it will. There we go. It's full. So it doesn't say max, but we know from what we had before, we know it is the max. Not quite sure why this time it doesn't say max, but it doesn't. So this will get us 91,000 liters of canola. And so when I looked at the prices, canola was about $600 a liter, or 1,000 liters, which means we'll be at, for 100,000 liters, which will be that part, we'll pass that in our next load. Still trying to learn my way around. I was kind of going to head further out, and then I'm like, wait a minute, the silo's right here. So yeah, the good news is at least I've given myself, the way I put in the driveway worked out pretty well. Alright, I don't think I'm over the grate yet. See, but like I should see an eye here. Now we do. I don't know, maybe it did appear before and I just didn't see it. I have no idea. But in any event, we're able to turn, and we're relatively close to the edge here of getting out of the field. But so yeah, it's probably, that shed's probably closer to the center. Maybe somewhere in between. So yeah, I mean this space is big enough, but in hindsight now as I'm sitting here working it, it's not quite as big as it may have felt like. I mean, we've got what we need in here, and the most important thing is we've been able to do it without an impact to the fields, where other farmers are struggling with making those decisions. we've got the blessing of not having to worry about that. So I think I'm just barely going to pull through here. Just get the front of the truck. And then, yeah, get back in our harvester. It's already empty, which I figured it would be. It's only 3,000 liters, so it's virtually nothing. Probably going to have to move around a few more times, but maybe not. I don't know. I think to be safe, I am going to let it reposition because it's going to move more than I think. Alright, so now we'll see what the new normal is. Continuing on here. But so basically that section of the field is 90,000 liters of canola. So I don't think, doing some quick estimating in my head, I don't think we're going to approach 500,000 liters in this entire harvest. But we should, I think, pretty easily exceed 250. So maybe in the 400 range is where we'll land. We'll see how this all pans out. It's definitely interesting. But, you know, and this is the part I enjoy. Just kind of looking out over the crops ready to be harvested. Kind of seeing the roll of the hills down to the river. Where once again, the reason I selected this plot was to not have the flatness that a lot of the other folks have. And you know, they'll have those options too as they start to buy other things if they want to expand. Just right now, you know, the field Swede got in the corner in 21 is also pretty flat, but you know, it's just a matter of do they want to hold out or do they want to take something that's along the river or the waterways and get a little bit of that variety, or are they just okay with, hey, I've got what I've got, and to run with that. So there is nothing at this point now again that we've kind of done or started to do the full impact. I'm not like, gee, I wish that island wasn't there and I could just go up and down and up and down. It adds variety. It's not disruptive enough that it's feeling burdensome. So, you know, I feel pretty good about it. It's going to be interesting when I do the other end of the field that has those, you know, two islands basically. Of again, how that feels at that point, because I think that'll be a little bit more. But once again, I've already shown doing the other work, I can just drive through those islands because there's no trees, so it just saves a little bit of time. So it's really not that disruptive either. This is actually more disruptive because I do have to actually work around it, where over there, I guess I'm working through it. So I wouldn't even have to take the harvester off the GPS line. I'd do the same thing I did with the spreader or the plow or whatever. Just pick it up, you know, zip through those spaces and put it back down on the other end and keep going. You know, so that's where, because I kind of brought that to mind because I'm looking at that space in 12 for Swede and wondering, you know, will he leave it or will he make the decision at some point to plow over it and make that a solid field. And the thing that I don't know is if there's truly water features in there that are holding water, I don't think plowing over it will make the water disappear. And so at a minimum, you're going to have just a very strange looking thing where if it let you put crops in and let everything work, you're going to, in essence, have crops growing in a marsh, which probably wouldn't happen. I mean, I've definitely seen farm fields here that have depressions where water collects and they just end up being mud. Like, the crops never actually germinate because they're drowned out by the water that tends to pool there. So we're finally getting over to where our busy hive is operating. Basically, the next swing over will cover that area. Just looking at how that's sitting, that actually is kind of mashed in there between the trees pretty well, so that worked out pretty nicely. Kind of, again, maximizing the space I have, not taking up a larger space that I could theoretically use for something else, but once again, what that something else might be, I would only think of, something like, well, it can't be chickens even, because I was going to say it'd be something like chickens, but again, we're back to the position of then I need to leave myself a road because I have to feed them. Obviously, bees, they're just bees. They do their thing. I don't have to run grain out to them or root crop or anything else or water. They just do their thing. So I don't know that I could have anything but bees on that island. And then, which I think is, again, why Swede's got his hive there in the center, too, because he can do that, and then have, I don't know, what I don't know is where his spawn point is. He may have put it there in the center, and maybe he just empties it. His idea was he'll empty it when he is harvesting, and he's got access, and then when everything grows up around it, he just lets things accumulate, and just like then I did the other day, where I ended up with 7 pallets to deliver. He just does them in spurts, and that would work as well. But I don't have that option with any of the other animal types because they all need feeding along with picking up whatever they produce. And once again, we've talked about, I'm pretty sure the spawn points for chickens or sheep, which are the other two that generate pallets of either wool or eggs, I think they're more than they're 2 pallets at least, so I'd be exceeding my maximum available automatically. So if I do more animals, I'm going to have to think about it and think about what I do. Because if I continue to leave the center open, I could, put things on that little peninsula and just have access to them from that space without necessarily having to do any kind of further tree removal or anything like that. Obviously, it'd be easier to get to if I did some tree removal, I'm sure, but it wouldn't necessitate that. Yeah, that's what I figured. Like, not putting that pipe in is going to be a problem there, because I'm going to get myself hooked, and I did. Oh! Luckily, speaking of putting the pipe in, I just noticed I'm full. I was going to start, and then I'd be like, well, I'd be running into the crop, frankly, but luckily I took a look. Too much talking again, and not enough attentioning. Yeah, it looks strange, because until obviously the crops draw out of that circle, it's like, wait, am I heading into crop? But I could see the tracks, so that was giving me a bit of, wait a minute, I think I'm okay here. But yeah, it looks like, I've basically gone 3 times. Yeah, because that was the one I took off of. So definitely a different pattern here. But we'll get that done. We'll get him emptied. And then we'll turn around and we'll continue on. So, making good progress. We're more than halfway across the longer stretch here. About exactly an hour into our harvest adventure here. So not too bad, which in theory means we should have 15 acres done, which might be right. But anyway, let me fold that pipe back, because that was what I was getting at, is I need to, see, at least here with the header down and running, I actually harvest that canola rather than just destroy it, where I think before, I don't know, maybe I had picked it out, but I'm not sure that I really had. So I think I had kind of destroyed part of the crop and lost a few liters here and there. You know, but definitely this is kind of my most contoured part of the field. It's kind of tilting on all planes, X, Y, Z. You know, I've got elevation change, I've got rotation to the river, I've got angle back down to the, you know, other end of the river on the north side there that spans out. You know, it's almost like a little bit of a pond or a lake in the river feature that expands here on this end of the field. So definitely pretty nice. Not feeling a lot right now like I need field 8. Because there is a piece of me that's like, well, maybe I should just buy it, never use it, and drive through it to get to my field. But that just seems like kind of a dumb waste, and that's actually a small enough field that someone might realistically be able to buy it and use it. And if I'm just buying it and not using it, it's not really fair to the community either. It is on the main road. It probably would look a lot better, you know, being utilized and changing for visuals for others as they play on the server, than just stagnating as what would amount to a plowed field. So yeah, this is going to take a while at this point. I've gone certainly long enough. I don't have a whole lot to say. Beyond that, I've probably hadn't had a whole lot to say even up till now. I've been just kind of babbling about various things, and if you've stuck with me, thanks. But at this point, you know, maybe I'll leave the recording going and maybe turn it into a time lapse. I don't know. But I think we're done with the live portion of the program for a while at least. So I'll see you in a bit. So getting to the point here where I was finishing up toward the end and realized I'm going to need to do something near this island. So decided I'd cut across, and basically what I tried, and I think it's going to work pretty well, is instead of just going straight across, I went ahead and went down a bit and cut down across a couple passes, basically of the thickness of the island. And so the header's wide enough that the island's not, you know, over, I guess, 26 meters wide. But that will allow me to continue going north-south here in this area of the field. So the other thing that was a bit challenging is where the truck is the last place I was filling, and at that point the truck was full. With the max weight, it really had a hard time backing up the hill. The wheels were spinning. It eventually came out, but there's definitely impacts that the game has when you're doing things like that. So again, something a little unique and interesting that whoops, that's not what I wanted. I hit the B key, and then I realized I thought I was hitting the V key, and even that I didn't want to do because I didn't necessarily want to pick up the header. So let me see how I can line up. It's been a bit of a challenge down here, I'm not going to lie, with trying to get everything aligned. So as you can see there, it missed a piece. I'm not sure that it didn't miss a piece there either. So we'll come through here. Yes, it's definitely grabbing more of the canola than it was. So it's definitely pretty tight in this area of the field. But with the contours and the uniqueness, I figured I'd show you a little bit more here, as that's part of the fun of, at least for me, the fun of the game of just, you know, when you're on parts of a field that are a different look or a different tactic that you need to attack them with. So as I was doing that, I felt compelled to share a little bit more. So we'll stick around as we go through some of this and see what we see. So hopefully you'll enjoy it as much as I'm sure I will, going through it for the first time. But now we're past that tight tree on the island, so that is done at this point. Oh, the GPS kind of locked itself up. I had the gas on, but it would not keep moving. Oops, let me lower this. Lowered it too late. And now I'm sure I just took out, no, I probably didn't. Thought a little bit more, but even that was 8 liters, so, you know, small amounts on this field are not insubstantial. You know, 8 liters of crop is a pretty good section. You know, in the grand scheme of things, it may not be. When we're talking of about hundreds of thousands of liters, but if we keep destroying them or leaving them out, they will add up to a few $100s of crop that we've thrown away for nothing. So this little tree is going to be pretty close, so I think this turn is still going to be a bit challenging, but after that it should be smooth sailing. And then very quickly we'll be heading to the east-west passes, leading to the home stretch of finishing this field up. So let me fold this up again, because I think we're going to run into a position, because I think what I'm going to do is head this way and then turn where I can manipulate myself back a bit more and then come at this a bit straighter. And that should then allow me to hit this appropriately. There we go. Perfect. So hopefully we'll get through this row without filling up. We may not, now that I look at it, but I've had to dance around with the truck a bit already. But yeah, my hope was that I'll be able to continue downhill and just bring that truck out and around, and that looks like that'll be the case. It's going to be really, really close. I had one row that I ended up almost at the end, but had to stop because I was entirely full. And then when I finally picked it up at the end, I think I had 66 liters, and I was down to, I think, less than that in what I had left. But we should be able to make this. I think we're in good shape. Yep. So that is good. So we won't have another repeat episode. And then I'll go ahead and actually turn around here, and then we'll be able to empty very shortly after we lower this without moving forward. But at this point it should straighten out, and again we can get to 18,000, so We'll stop here. Hello? Ah, the GPS locked up on me. So, lovely. Best laid plans. Always, always. So, even though I was being very careful, the GPS thwarted me. So, hate when that happens, but nothing I can do about it. So again, I'm sure we lost maybe even up to 50 or 100 liters there, because those are pretty thick tracks, and they're a ways into the crop, so not what I was hoping for, but... And obviously at that point, yeah, it lifts the header, turns the header off, and continues on. So yeah, I think we're going to end up with a full truck before we finish this section. But I think I've only made one more trip to the silo since we were last on in the longer stretch. So it hasn't been that much, but it's been, as you can see, a good 30 to 45 minutes. So there's, you know, and there was some things I just needed to handle in between and so forth. So I haven't been harvesting straight for that time, but a good portion of it certainly. Most of it, absolutely. But yeah, we're going to start after a few more passes. We're going to get to the shorter and shorter passes as this field tapers down along the riverbank. But at this point, we are at the point where we're now clear of trees, I think until the end, honestly. So it should be smooth sailing, where it's just a matter of getting things done and not rushing too much to what is happening. Oh boy, this thing just lowers slower. Everything's a little botched up. Now it's not on the GPS. It won't start. There we go. I am just having all kinds of fun. It actually worked quite well in the times that I didn't show, but obviously that matters less. But yeah, we're totally rotating from being angled, you know, at a certain, 10-20 degrees from the west side to the east side, to now we're a little higher on the east side than we are on the west side of the header of the field, and I've kind of gone through that entire complex curve of the field. So a fun geometry problem if anybody's looking to do it, and obviously since these fields are rendered digitally and in a computer, that's exactly what these things turn out to be when people are designing them. I think the editors take care of a good portion of the complexity, but still, it's an interesting thing to note how that all comes together, and then, what experience it gives you actually playing on the field that way. So it's kind of fun. But that's what I'm enjoying about this area of the field, is it's very complex. Not necessarily to work, because the equipment handles it swimmingly, but just, kind of how things move around, because once again, I think we're going to start to flatten out here before we get to the river. I don't know that we're going to rotate back to the other side, but there you go, we're about flat now. And yeah, I guess we are actually tilting back. in the other direction, and then I think we'll come back to center before we hit. I think we're slipping because we don't have a lag issue. No, we're not slipping, we just somehow have lost the GPS again, the cruise control actually. I keep saying GPS, but in this case it's cruise. So I think I was just literally coasting down that hill the whole time and hadn't noticed that the cruise control hadn't locked in. And it just finally came to a standstill there. So let's see. Now the cruise is on. Alright, I think we got it all. Yeah, that's grass over here. Like I see something standing up, but that's the weed or grass in the grass area. It's not the right color for canola. So we got everything that we need off the field, which is great. I guess that's the one thing too that I'm curious about is, in reality, yeah, do farmers at this case, you know, when you're threshing near the edge of the field, I'm assuming, I mean, it's just a blade, so the thresher would probably pull in grass, but I'm guessing the combine is smart enough to know to throw that out along with all the other chaff. Not sure. Very, very interesting things that you suddenly realize are things that need to be thought of when it's not something you are actually operating on day to day. And yeah, with the hill, I've been also kind of floating downhill more than I would have liked, and so there was one or two times that I ended up drifting into the crop. I was beginning to think I wasn't on cruise again, but I am. It's just, I don't know, maybe this is full speed, it just doesn't seem like it. It's showing me at the full 6 miles an hour, but it just felt like I was flowing through molasses again. So, in this case, definitely making some good progress. Now that these are shorter passes, you know, we're getting more rows over. And I think we were at, yeah, we're hitting a little bit of lag. We're getting into the yellow. I think that's what's going on there. Just acting strangely where it almost, sound-wise, is acting like it's going into reverse for a split second. So we keep hearing that beeping. But it's nothing I'm doing with the controls, I promise. But yeah, with the shorter passes, I think we were at plus 15 at the far end of the field when we started this. So this is about, you know, coming up on about 30. Well, actually, I think this would be the 30th row, because there is a row 0 that you go through. So it's not the 60 across that I thought when we were discussing the header width as we were coming back from the shop. But, you know, it is half that, so it's possible if we had the wider header that, like, 2 passes may have been, we may have had 2 passes less up to this point with a different header, but nothing incredibly substantial. So, again, to not have to deal with the trailer, I think it's a worthy trade, in my opinion. Since I'm the one having to spend my time and do the work, I'll use my opinion for the decision. So, yeah, it's just much, much nicer to just kind of unfold those wheels, pull around, connect, and leave, than try to, you know, drop the header, then, or try to line the trailer up on the trailer, and then try to get in position, where sometimes you'll hit the arm or move the arm, And the arm always kind of sticks out at a straight angle when you unfold. So there isn't the position of, did I pull in and leave the trailer, and is the arm at a 45-degree angle and now I can't see it in the grass that you run into. I had that as a lot as a contractor on Wild West, because for whatever reason the map, or the not the map, the grass at the edge of the fields was very dense, and so I'd be losing the header trailer's tow arm all the time. Alright, we're not gonna finish this one, so we'll have to back up. Just gotta be careful that I don't run into the field. So I usually, wait till 99 and then go ahead and kind of back out at some angle to let the truck get in. So we'll move that over, but as you can see, we took a good amount, probably 5-6 rows over from where we're at here. I think I have enough room to actually pull in from the front, which is good, because then I'll be basically out of the way for the harvester to continue. So swing around this way. I think we're actually going to hit max weight before this empties, so I'll stay in the truck and then we'll go deliver it. And at this point I haven't cut the field, but I can go around from this side. So I think we're going to deliver from this side for the first time. So another wonderful reason that we're actually talking through the recording here, because that's a new approach that we haven't seen. But there you go, max weight shows up, and I am on the gas, I promise, but the truck is not getting any grip. So so when it's fully loaded, as you would expect with a real truck, it has a little bit more of a challenge. So hopefully we won't have any weird behavior. I don't know if it does something like tip over on slopes when it's fully loaded, but I know at this point I can drive around the edge of the field, get over here to that center section that is empty. So one of the reasons that I have done that is for exactly this purpose. And so, as I said, I don't know, I mean, 20 acres seems really big for this. I'd be surprised if it was that much, but we can see the silo there off to the right a little bit. It's now behind the tree line. Last time I came through here, I changed my view to, I think I'll do the same thing, to in cab. It's just simpler to pull in this way. I didn't at least get to the point where I could see my fill come up, but I'll try it this time and see. It just seems like I'm not... See, like that should be enough. No, not yet, so let me try it again. Oops. Alright. So I think we're good. So we can see the point within the screen here. We've got a little bit of weird flutter on some of the dashboard gauges and stuff, as you can see. So I don't know if that's how the model is built or kind of what that is showing. I'm not quite sure what's happening there, but the wheel is shaking like crazy in my hand. But anyway, with the force feedback, it's just jamming at my wrists. It's very weird. Now we've got lags, so that I understand. And again, I'm not doing anything in particular that should be causing that I know how to control. You know, none of those background processes I've talked about are operating. This is the worst set of red I've had in a long time. Now, there is another FM that has joined. Fire has appeared. I did say hello to him, but to my knowledge, I don't think he responded. I'll look. Yeah, no, I just have my morning in there. And so he's just got on and was busy, focused on getting to work. But clearly it doesn't say he's left the server, so I'm thinking he's over there, and just like he's busy, I am too, and I haven't gone out to the map to see anything. But once again, we'll cycle around here. I'm gonna go out, and then we'll come in the same way we did before for the same reason, that I'm basically out of the way more if I come in this way than I am if I do it a different direction, because otherwise the front of the truck is hanging out where I need to be. We are empty, and see, now I can kind of tuck in and immediately resume my line. We're still not lined up, so try to do this a little bit better so that we don't leave any canola on the field. I think we're good. And the big question will be, can we finish the rest of this section before we fill up again? I think we can, but I might be proven wrong. So yeah, I think I'll do that. I'll start going down the east-west pass, and then I'll basically cut again. I think I'll have given you enough additional material here for a bit, and then may not come back until that section is done, however long that takes. At this point, I think I'm going to be able to plow through this morning. So I also have field 36 has come up for auction, which is kind of up in the north or the southeast corner. It's in front of, it's just north of those two fields. So when I say in front, I mean above of those two fields that we ran over in the Nosy Neighbor episode that were forested in between, that you'd need to, pull out a lot of trees to kind of gain more arable land. So it's just north of that. So it's a potential for a couple of the FMs down there. Fire and Ginger are down in that area. I don't know if any one of them is going to bid on it, but even if they're not, once again, I'm going to keep up with getting these fields ready. So I also have that work to get done in the next few days. And like once I get this harvest done, there's nothing specific I have to do on specific days. Once again, I can fertilize the other end of the field, start doing that prep work. So I'll certainly do that before the end of the year, but GPS is not responding again. That was a little too close for comfort, but I needed it to start rotating back, otherwise it just follows the same path back and you basically get no benefit. So you need the implement to rotate in the opposite direction, pivot in the opposite direction, to know that you're going to get a different track for certain once you go forward or reverse, once you change direction. But yeah, we've got everything limed. Obviously it was plowed before that, so we've kind of got the liming and the or the fertilizing, I think, is what's left, because we would have done rock picking. Might have to do rolling. I'm trying to remember. I think the rolling happens after planting, or can. I think it could happen before, but I'm not sure. I don't recall, but yeah, I'll just have to figure out what I need to do there, because I don't think I did the rolling in the other areas, so I don't even know that I'm going to turn on the GPS at this point. We've got this thin line. I think I'm capable of steering accurately enough that I won't miss any. And then, like I said, this part will be done. And then we can change our GPS line to the east-west. Obviously, we didn't get anywhere near filling this harvester. But you know what? I was going to... I guess I'll start down here. There's not really a great thing, because at this point, trying to align with where we need to, given what I've done to this field, isn't going to work. Up here, because I'm south of the island and eyeballing it, I'll probably be off. But this, I went with the edge of the field, and that means I'm going to kind of, I think, alright, what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave it about where it's at, but that means I need to cut some here first until I start to see my GPS line appear in the field. Thinking I'm okay? But I'm not sure, because I don't know that I can say I really see it yet. I'm going to take a chance. But I believe that gets me kind of what I need. And then we'll lower the header and we'll give it a go. And at this point we'll probably be having nearly nothing at the other end of the field, but we've got to start with a pass to be able to do that. So the question really is, am I going to get this all, or do I have a piece that I'm still going to need to go out and get? Because this looks like it's kicking out a bit. It is. That's disappointing. So at this point I'll figure out how far I need to go, and then we'll come back and we'll just fix it. But again, the edge of the crop, that's kind of where it was, so I didn't have much choice there. At this point I'll just leave the GPS line on, so there should be no danger of crop damage doing it this way. And we'll come back and get that little piece, and then all will be well. Because then I know I can continue, and you know, again, we'll have a little bit left that will be, or we'll cut less and less as we get further west on the field here. But we'll get kind of where we need to. We go back this way, and then we'll let it straighten out and then continue. And now I'm comfortable that we'll be good, because the field continued to move in, or up north, from the bottom edge, and it doesn't look like we were driving erratically coming this way. We were pretty good at maintaining a line. So the question will be, you know, will I have more than half the header left at that end? But at this point I'm just going to run this field across. I wouldn't be surprised if it takes me at least another hour to finish this. But then we will be done. And so I'll definitely be back at the end to show you the results and see what ultimately we pulled off this field. And we'll go from there. So I'll see you in a bit. Alright, so I'm actually returning a little bit early, because I've noticed my little blinking gas gauge down there next to my speedometer. I felt I was not going to be able to finish the harvest without refueling, and that appears to be the case. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to end up here at the end, and I'm just going to drop my header, and then I'm going to go and get myself some fuel from my tank. So I'm going to need to stop things, because otherwise I can't disconnect, and I don't want to be heading into there with my header, because obviously that's a lot wider, and there's literally no reason to have to to have to attach it and tow it. I'll be doing that when I am done and I'm going to put things away, but at this point we'll go fuel up. And as I said, I think I was down near half or close to it at one point pretty early on, and was like, ooh, I'm not going to make it. And clearly I'm not, and luckily I saw it before I suddenly ran out in the field and again would have to go buy a tanker, or that I can get fuel in, which is not the end of the world, but obviously something I'd prefer to not have to worry about. Obviously we've paid for this diesel already, so we're just filling, but we're not seeing any money go down because we already have this here. But we can probably go see, yep, so we can see our liters falling, so we're just past 500 liters. Definitely pretty dirty harvester, not unexpected after all this work, but we'll get that cleaned up when we bring it back in to put it back in the yard until next harvest. But we're just about there. And I don't know that it's going to tell us. It did not. So a little bit over 1,000 liters. So I guess it's 6 1/2 dozen of the other if I just had pulled through and gone around on the field, but it just seems to make more sense to go this way as the header's over here, and I still think this is shorter than going all the way out and around, because I'd also have to drive around that peninsula and so forth. So in hindsight, yes, I'm quite sure this is substantially shorter. If I had left the header on the other end, for example, that would have been different, but I did not. So at this point we can finish, but just wanted to pop in and let you know what was happening and that I did have to get some fuel. So I'll see you in a bit. So making the last pass here. Majority of this is by the island, but there's a little bit, you can see a little bit sticks out, and there's one little group that's a little bit further away too, just a touch up that we need to do. Couldn't quite stay on the line because, as you can see, we're well into the trees in the island, so just manually driving this last bit here. I think we're going to have no problem not filling the harvester again. Made some trips to the silo, at least one, probably two, since we last talked, and as we can see on the work time on the harvester, we're at 3.2 hours. There was a little bit of time, obviously, to get it down here to the field and so forth, but it's probably just a few minutes. But still, it may have added up a bit. But in any case, we're over 3 hours for sure in harvesting what we did, which is about right because, as we said, 30, trying to think, did I run over it? I'm worried I ran over it, because there is a little bit there, but I thought there was something somewhere else. I may have just taken it out and not realized it, but so a little bit there, because it doesn't show up on the map, but I swore there was a segment. Well, I'm not seeing it now, so if it was there, we took it out, and if it wasn't, then it wasn't. So I'm going to get this unloaded. I hope I have enough. Otherwise, I may just see if I can run in and empty it there, but with a roof over the unload point, I don't think I can swing my pipe in there. I think that would really be harvester gymnastics. Alright, well that didn't work. Thought I was in reverse, then my pipe wasn't even lined up, because again I'm further away than I think. Goodness gracious. Alright. Trying to understand where I need to be. Clearly is a chance. Why won't this thing just stop moving at this point? But yes, we'll definitely get this fully unloaded. So I will then put the harvester away. I'm going to try to do that. I don't know where that will be. So again, it may be on the outside like I had in Ohio. I suppose at this point we can turn off the header. We'll pull this forward a bit, put this away. Now at this point I need to unfold and then drop down. And now I can fold the harvester. So get that all tucked away nice and neat. So the nice thing is, and I think it's probably a bit of its European roots, there's obviously, lots of close quarters, especially if you're harvesting in England and places like that. So this harvester does fold itself up pretty much as compact as you can get. Obviously the pipe sticks out a little bit more than one might prefer, but other than that, it actually locks itself up pretty nice and tight and is about the space that it needs to be for, as big as the body is. Alright, so we need to get enough in here that there, at least pieces of it, are both in the pad, because then we can do the repair, hopefully on both. Alright, so 2022 for the harvester and 362 for the header. So about $2,500 in repair costs to do that harvest. See that fan running inside. I do like when they do very thorough animations on models, so that's always a nice little addition. Alright, harvester nice and clean. Get the header cleaned up from all the cutting it was doing. So it served us well. I don't know that it's actually doing anything to clean it now. Let's see, this looks better. I think I'm watching that arm. It does appear to be very slowly getting cleaner, but definitely the header itself is, but somehow where I was aiming before it was just spraying water and not giving me credit for washing anything. Alright, so we've got the header clean. Trying to get in, but it's not letting me here, so I probably need to get to this side. Yeah, I mean, if I'm being real, I really can't. I can't store this thing underneath. I've got more than enough stuff there. So I'm going to have to put it here, and once again, when I get a corn header, which I'm sure I will do at some point, to do sunflowers at least, but I may do corn too. I'm going to have to either tuck it in like I did, or I'll more than likely just put it over there in the forest by the rock picker. So we're going to give this a shot here. I'm going to leave things connected because right now I have nothing else. So it's not as if if I'm going to take the harvester and do something different. Now, that's not entirely true if I go buy a header, but I'm not doing that anytime soon. I'm planning corn or sunflowers as my next crop. Because what I may do once I determine the cycle, and I don't think it's any different, is that every third planting you need to plow anyway. What I may do is then, plant 2 non-corn header crops, for lack of a better description, and then I'll plant a corn header crop that third year, and then I'd have to plow anyway. So it's not like I'm creating any extra work, where if I was to go ahead and put it in now, I absolutely would be creating an additional plow cycle than what I need. Alright, so we'll get this canola dropped. We'll get the truck parked. I should be able to back that in. Once again, we'll, do what we need to clean things up, and then, tidy it up, but I'm basically going to back it into that spot behind the other trailer. And we've got a pretty full shed at that point. And the reality is, whether I like it or not, can't fit everything in that one shed. I mean, if I really, really pack things in, like sometimes you see farmers do, which once again, they're doing that because obviously they're paying for all those buildings. Not that we're not paying for the buildings, but in any event, they do that. Alright, the trailer's a little dirty, I think, underneath, or maybe that's just paint chips. And this looks like the mud flaps are dirty on the back. So let me see. I don't know. Everything looks clean, but yet doesn't. I don't know how to explain it. Alright. So I'm going to make a sharp turn here. I think I can pivot around. And then basically I'm going to have to just be very careful and back into my garage space and put that trailer away. So I'm going to pull forward a bit here. Wrong way. And we'll start heading back, and then we'll get put away. I'm kind of keeping an eye out for lag. I don't think I've got any, but it's always tricky. And yeah, this is still pretty tight as it is. But again, the tractor's got a good amount of maneuverability, so I think I'll be alright. So I'll just keep letting this rotate a bit. Now try to straighten it out. Let's see. I think I want to go that way. Yeah, it's very close to that pole at this point, but it's letting me go, so it's not saying I've hit anything yet. And then at this point I should be able to go relatively straight back, disconnect myself, detach. That took a little while, but that's okay. I guess it needed to know where it was. And then, maybe we'll put ourselves there. And we're all set. So, let's take a look at what we've got. Alright, 252,423 liters. So, we just barely got 250,000. I really thought we'd get a lot more off of that. So, in-game, I can sell for 500 to 538. Alright, so I've gone ahead and taken a look at my other options in FSN, which is to direct sell. which basically means, someone's buying it from me. Either way, we've got to take things to the custom silo if we go that route. And what I found was it's $5.63 at one of the internal game bins, and it's only $5.67 if I direct sell, so certainly not enough of a premium that I would go ahead and do that, because then if I wanted money back in, which I will at some point, and it wouldn't hurt to have it here, that would make sense. But my other alternative, which is sell through the resource exchange, and currently the average price for canola in Baku, which is where our warehouse is in Baku, Afghanistan, or Azerbaijan, is 910. So I should be able to sell for 900 a liter without too much difficulty. Now, obviously, I don't want to wait too long, so I'm likely going to go ahead and what I think I'm going to do is issue a contract. The custom silo is not that far. It's just I don't have time necessarily to do it now, but maybe later today I will, and the price maybe won't change that much. But I think I'm going to sell it on the resource exchange, and I'm just going to do it right away. So, I don't know, I'm trying to think, because it's probably only going to be, I don't know, it's always longer than I think. I'm thinking it's only going to be like half an hour. But I also need to keep in mind that I can only take so much. I'm half tempted to get the other trailer, but I just don't know that the maximum weight is going to change, and I'd hate to spend more and not be able to haul more than 45,000 and just have bought another trailer for that. But it would be nice, because, typically otherwise it would be, if I could truly fill a trailer with 80,000 liters, it's 4 trips to the custom silo to get that canola over there, so it's nothing. Alright, well, I'm going to think about it. Either way, it's going to be another episode. I may just say, I'm going to bite the bullet, I'll take a look at some stuff, and I may just stay on and get it done, because I'm always worried I'm going to get tied up with something and then can't do it. Normally we'd be waiting a little bit to do something with the crops, but at this point I really don't want to pass that up, because I may never see that kind of price again. I'm just surprised the premium's that high, and the fact that the direct sell is in line with the server is also kind of unique, because usually the direct sells at least 100 liters, $100 more per 1,000 liters, so it kind of gives you a little bit of pause. But at $4, it's not even worth the hassle. It's just let's go sell it. So, all right. But anyway, I will see you next time.